This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Antonio Diascanis to discuss how he's leveraging the power of processes and systems to take his gym to the next level. Now, for all of you listening to this via podcast, be sure to also check out the video version of this interview and the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. If you'd like to watch the show live, we record every Friday in the network, which is our free private Facebook group for the motivated gym owners of the world to share their best tactics and strategies to grow their businesses. Join the network today and get in on the conversation. All right, back to the show. All right, hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I'm your host, Marcus Guersey. And this week, we welcome to the show special guest, Antonio Diascanis, owner and head badass at Black Ops Fitness in Wilmington, Delaware. Antonio, pleasure to have you on, brother. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Marcus. Excited to be here, man. Ready to drop it.
All right, man. So, Antonio, tell us a little bit about yourself and your gym. You're a box owner in Wilmington, but you've got a pretty rich backstory, man. Get us up to speed.
Sure. Number one, I'm a father. I have a son who's turning 3 on Sunday. I have another son who's 1.5 years old, and I have a third baby on the way in January. Everything I'm going to share with you today in this video, none of it would be possible without my wife, Kelly, who supported me all the way. And as many of you out there probably know, as entrepreneurs, we are, excuse me, you got it. Sorry, Marcus.
All good, all good.
Come through. That was actually my wife calling me right now, which is a little weird. But none of it could have been possible without her, and she keeps calling. Let's see. Hold and accept, send voicemail. Sorry about that.
It's all good,
all right,
man.
We're back. Joined the Marine Corps straight out of high school. I'm the youngest of 6, and so when you're the youngest in a family, trying to live up to, 5 siblings, it's kind of a rocky road. You're always trying to go in the path that they set. And in high school, I could already see that I was kind of making some mistakes and that I wasn't achieving what, they had achieved. And so right outside of high school, I didn't have money for college. I joined the Marine Corps. And through the next 8 years was basically like a growing process of becoming a man, learning about leadership, how hard it can be to develop all those traits. How to hold yourself accountable for your mistakes. And while I was in there, I got to do a lot of cool things. I was a martial arts instructor, and that was really where I kind of honed my craft at instruction. And then I was also running the physical fitness tests for all the Marines, tracking their statistics. And that's where I really got into the training aspect. From that, I went and was a drill instructor out in your neck of the woods in San Diego, MCRD, Recruit Depot. And that's really where I found my calling in life. I found my purpose. I was at my highest peak. I was just achieving everything I could ever dream of, physically, mentally, and emotionally with my body. It was the most challenging thing I've ever done, but it was also the most rewarding thing. I trained over 600 Marines, and to hear the feedback they gave me as I trained each platoon, I kind of started, I didn't know what I was doing, very much like young entrepreneurs, and I grew over time, and through their feedback and the things they would come to me and tell me, it kind of started to build that confidence and kind of really show me that there was something great at work with helping other people. When I got out of the Marine Corps in California, my brother offered me a job at an engineering firm on the East Coast back home. And at the time, I was working for a startup company in California, and I was running up and down the coast. They had a store in Hollywood, and they had a store in San Diego, Southern California. And that's really where I saw my first business that was kind of like a startup. And I was watching the boss man, who was kind of a wild character. But I really learned a lot from him. I learned what not to do, but I also learned what a startup business is and, what it takes to run one. And I was working about 77 hours a week, getting paid for 40. So it wasn't a good setup. So my brother offered me a job. I came back east and started working for his engineering firm, which was a blessing. And I was doing land survey, which is kind of being on the side of the road with the tripod. And it was during those long hours of standing still behind a tripod that I was really starting to realize that this is not my calling. This wasn't my purpose. And I kind of had to sit there and stew with that thought. And it was a comfortable job, and I was trying to do the best I could for the business, and I was, but it just wasn't what I was called to do. And I knew what I was capable of, and I knew what I could do for other people. And so it was a great job, but I wasn't getting that fix from that. So at the time I started doing personal training at night, my cousin kind of brought me in as a mentor, Joe and Nicole from Achieving Physiques. I think they're part of the network, so hopefully they're watching or can hear this.
Yeah,
and they kind of mentored me on how to be a personal trainer. At that time I found CrossFit, and I really got into the CrossFit world and the local competitions. And so I was doing personal training at night. I was CrossFitting at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I was working a full-time job during the day. And I was starting to see that I was doing all three aspects, and I still wanted to do something different. There was something I wanted to do personally that I wasn't doing at the time. And so that's when I started to really have that idea to open my own gym. And, it was the cycle of life. My family story is pretty much my gym story. In 2015 is when we opened our gym. 2015 is when I got engaged to my wife, and when I married my wife, and when I lost my father, which actually happened very close to our wedding. And the last thing I said to my father, after 2 years of peeking through garage windows and searching on LoopNet and dealing with commercial real estate agents and doing whatever you can to try to live your dream, I had found a location, and it was in the rough neighborhood. It was on the wrong side of the tracks. It was in the back of a rough neighborhood, but I could visualize. When I looked through the warehouse door, I could see what I could make it. And that day I went to tell my parents, and it was the last thing I told my dad was that I had found a gym location. And I didn't know at the time that was going to be the last thing I told him. And they never really approved. There's a funny story. My first road order mistakenly went to their house, and they had a sit-down meeting with me out back of their house, and they said, you have to send all this stuff back. I had boxes and boxes of road things that I was going to, begin my business with in basements, essentially. And they sat me down. They said, you need to send all this back. And this is your parents who you love, and they want the best for you. And I said, okay, I'll send it back, which I didn't. So that's how we started. I started training in basements. We grew to a garage. I started like a rogue squat rack and a kettlebell, an ab mat, and a GHD. My friend let me use his garage, and we would have people come visit us, and we would train them, and he was really cool about that. Then another friend offered me to live with him if I would train him and let us work out of his garage, so we went and did that. Then one of my other friends was a band member who was practicing in a storage unit, and I was like, whoa, if you can practice in a storage unit for a band, you can probably run a little personal training studio out of that. So we signed up at the front desk, and she said, as long as I don't know what's going on, I'm cool. And we set up our gym. We set up our gym in a 200 square foot storage unit, put up banners and everything. And then, like I said, we found our first location in the rough neighborhood. We opened there. We were there for 1.5 years, and I just knew something wasn't working. And I was staying up every night thinking about what I could do to change it. And I was like, all signs point to I have to move my location. And at the time, I was expecting my second son, and we were selling our first house. So it was just madness in a sense, which is why this story is so crazy and all over the place. But this is the story. We found a location, an auto body shop that had been vacant, but it was in a very nice area with high traffic visibility. And so we just took a chance. The rent was triple what we were paying, and we didn't have the money to do it. And we've been here for about 1 year and some change, and we've been progressively growing, and we succeeded in getting it off the ground. And we were on the other end, and I was like, okay, I'm successful in the sense that we've achieved what we wanted to. We survived this 1.5 years paying rent and all our bills. Well, where am I taking this? What's next? And at the time I was watching your podcast, and I had watched you before previously when you were on Barbell Shrugged, and I went onto your website and I saw the foundations, the beta program, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna shoot them a message, and that's when you reached out to me, and we set up the process to begin our work together.
Yeah, man, you've got a hell of a story, man. And I mean, even though you just gave us a lot of info, it's like I still feel like it doesn't even do justice. Like when we first did that call, you were kind of getting me up to speed on your journey thus far and kind of the place you were in. You have a lot of passion. You're really advanced with what you actually do with your clients, far more than I think you just gave yourself credit for. And the business just wasn't matching it yet. And we did our first call, and I made a commitment to you. You made a commitment to me, basically saying like, hey, if you're willing to do the work and lean into this thing, we're going to help you get this thing on track and break through the plateau and get you aligned with your passion and make sure that the business is set up to grow accordingly.
Absolutely.
And as of a few weeks ago, we officially wrapped up the program with you. But before we get into that stuff, but what were the biggest challenges you were facing before we started the Foundations program?
Right. So when we basically initiated our call, the biggest challenge was just having a vision for where I was taking it the next year. Like I said, I got it off the ground. It was doing well. Our reputation was great in the area, which is invaluable. Everyone was happy. The vibes were great, but I was still not taking home a paycheck, and I was not sure what I was doing financially. I was bringing on staff, and that was a new experience for me as well. And just learning that as a new business owner, you go through crossroads, you go through plateaus, phases. And so I reached in my third phase, which was you have to figure out how to make this profitable to support your family. You're doing an awesome mission, and that's great, but to continue this mission, it has to be a sustainable business model. And so right away, the financial plan was a huge challenge. And then clarity of vision of where I wanted to take it next, because initially it was all optimism. And I think that's a huge power to have. You have to be optimistic. Sure. You have to believe in yourself and what you're doing. And over the years, when you start to listen to your members, you start to realize this isn't a job. This isn't it is a business, but there's so much more going on that you're responsible for. And if you're called to do that, you have to do whatever it takes to continue that mission. So the clarity of vision of where I was taking it in the upcoming years and the financial plan of how to do that were the two main challenges.
Awesome. So what aspect of your business do you now have clarity on that you didn't before, and how has that changed your day-to-day?
Yeah, so basically a huge tool you give us in the program is basically a money map. And I don't want to tell too much about it, but it's so simple but it's so valuable that when you go through challenging times, you just go back to this black and white piece of equipment in a sense, and you plug it in, and then you say, we can do this. It's right here in front of us. We just have to execute. We have to continue. We have to look at this from a numbers standpoint. And it takes away the emotion that sometimes we can get caught up in. So, and sorry, I got a little confused, forgot what your question was, but that was a huge part. And my wife and I use that now. And kind of a big part of me, which is kind of funny, is I didn't have the money to do this. So this is the hidden secret that my father-in-law doesn't know. But I've been shooting from the hip kind of from the beginning, and I didn't have the money to do this. So for me to get out of bed in the morning and to continue, running classes when no one shows up in the beginning, that is very difficult to do. And if you face the numbers, in my opinion, you won't get out of bed in the morning, So I had to go in there kind of with that blind ambition and optimism that I could make it happen without looking at the numbers. That is not the advice I would give someone who is starting from day one. And that's what I think the most valuable thing of what you do, and I'll talk about that later, is for someone that's new and hasn't opened a business yet. But just having that black and white plan is invaluable.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people like you, Antonio, who are extremely passionate about what they do and love what they do every day, and have used that passion to get them off the ground and to get that initial group of people going. But haven't necessarily given the numbers or the systems and the strategy. They're not as evolved as they need to be to match that. And sure. For you, I know that when we first went through that money mapping, vision clarification phase for you, you were super clear on what you wanted it to feel like and all that, but we didn't necessarily have the exact model of what the business would look like to accomplish that for you in your application defined yet. So we modeled the whole thing out, and we actually were able to figure out it was much easier to get to than it felt like it was. Because I think everyone Sure. feels like, oh my God, if I could just get 50 more members, or if I can just get to this revenue number, everything's going to be fine. But it seems like this massive undertaking, but we broke it down to a very simple service suite, ascension plan, and monthly growth goal to hit that actually made it very attainable. And now our job was, okay, we know now where we are, what's working, not working, where we want to go, and what the numbers need to look like in order to support that. We're able to very easily go through and adjust the sales and marketing engines and all that, which I think was huge for you too, because you were doing a lot of really hard work. But I don't think you were doing it in a way to where you were reaping the benefit for it.
Absolutely.
You were leaning in, you were working your ass off, but you weren't getting the rewards from it. And we needed to just make those things sync up. so that you could actually get the caliber of output as you are inputting into your members and into your business, so that the business can actually thrive. And we'll get to that stuff here in a minute. So
sure, yeah.
Anyway, so specifically, what are 2 processes or procedures that you've implemented from our sessions that have been a total game changer for your business?
One is the social calendar. As I think all the gym owners out there, personal trainers, whoever's listening, we have so many ideas every day and opportunities that arise. And it can be really detrimental to our mission and to our business if we don't control that, or if we don't have a set plan to follow. It's kind of doing ourselves a disservice. And so along with the money map, you get this calendar where before I joined the program, I had everything in my head. I mean, I watch you guys from California. I'm always trying to emulate people that are achieving something that I want to achieve. And I believe everyone should do that. You should always push yourself to something greater. And I knew there were so many things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do more apparel. I wanted to do more events. I wanted to do training. I wanted to motivate my members to pursue higher level versions of their training. And you gave me the calendar, the social calendar, or planning out a year, which before I was like, I'm planning out a year. I can't do that. Or I'm not a numbers guy. This is what I do. I just flow with the energy. But the systematic approach to everything, the way you layered in a retail program, the way you layered in an apparel program, the social event calendar, and then how everything supports that ongoing flow was pretty remarkable. And we've put that into effect right away. The intro policy, which we had dialed in, it wasn't that you taught me anything new. It's that you just emphasized the importance, how important it was. There were so many free hours I've worked for every person that walked through the door, and I always will do that. But sometimes that felt like a loss. And when you brought your experience in the business, and you said, Antonio, that's what makes you who you are, is that how much value you give someone that is new. You don't just go to your experienced athletes. It's the new person that gets the most attention. It's the new person that gets the most care. And then the psychology of everything was something that just kind of like a Jedi mind trick you start to understand. It's a lot of stuff that's already in you. It's just you can't do everything at once. And so this gives you a blueprint of how to do this in steps.
Love it, man. Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of our time working together, was really getting to I mean, you were so good and had so much love that you brought into all of your new clients and all that. And it was just a little bit of tweaking and tuning, and I think getting the mindset correct for you to allow you to really just lean into it, and it pays dividends immediately.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. So I guess what else would you, what were some other takeaways from this experience? And I mean, just overall, now that you finished the program, you're now up and running. We set you an entire annual plan. We got all these initiatives in place for your intro offer and process and onboarding, and how we're making sure they integrate, and you're upselling and retailing and retention strategies and all that good stuff. How are you feeling now? What's different for you now rather than from before when you started the program?
Yeah, it's absolutely just clarity of vision. And you said that on your first call. I have 6 months of work sitting inside me ready to rock and roll, and I've been applying it ever since we finished the program. I was applying it during the program, and you were like, slow down. We were just trying to get everything. I have a body of work that's going to take a year to put into effect. And while that's happening, everything is good. Everything is going better. And so it's just like, it's just your mission. I'm a Marine, it's all about the mission. It's all about your duty. And now that mission is in front of me. And without a mission, things can get a little murky. And so having that path to follow, it's just all about execution now. Now we know exactly who we are as a business. We know we have to identify ourselves more, and to achieve what we want, and in the fitness industry, you have to build your own brand, and you have to execute with systems so that you can achieve the mission of building that brand. And if you don't, the brand dies.
100%, man. How do you feel?
I feel great. I feel good.
Awesome.
Ready to work.
Yeah, we got plenty of work to do now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good, man. Well, if you could give the gym owners listening one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just one or 17?
Whatever you got, man.
All right. I was thinking this question was going to come, and there's so many things I would love to tell people. You know, one of my passions is because of what I went through, and it was not easy, and I can't stress that enough. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just saying I understand what, you know, I think there's maybe 4 types of gyms out there. There's someone who's got an idea, a passion, and wants to do it. They haven't even started yet. There's the person that has started it and they're struggling. There's the person that, like myself, achieved what they wanted to do, but they weren't successful in the financial business side of things. And then there's your very successful gym. So all 4 of those can just have value to know that we're not alone. You know, we're in the fitness industry, we're entrepreneurs, we're courageous. And so when you go through those struggles and those hard times, you're doing something no one else is doing. No one else had the courage to do. And I don't want to say the balls to do, but that's what it is. And so you need to control your influences. You need to control who you're around because they're not doing what you're doing. And so their words, their timelines they're giving you on your business. And this is any advice I ever give anyone is something I'm telling myself constantly during the day. You know, you have to control your subconscious. You have to control your influences, who you allow to get in your head. The news, not watching the news. You need to stay focused on positivity and optimism because you have a mission to achieve. And you can't let anyone take you away from that mission if you believe in it. And if you believe in it and it's not working, it doesn't mean it's the end. It means you course correct. And just because one thing didn't work exactly how you had planned, you still probably accomplished a lot and go right into the next thing. So the number one thing I tell anyone is to never quit, to never give up. And that's the statement of our gym. It's a statement of my life. And no one can ever take that from you. They can do whatever they want to, but they can't make you quit.
Beautifully said, man. I appreciate you, Antonio. Thank you so much for being on today. Thanks for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you inspired everyone who's listening, man. By the way, you guys, Antonio he's as awesome as he seems. I know he's always happy to connect with people. So, Antonio, where can people find more about you and get in touch with you if they want to chat with you or anything?
Sure. The website is BLKOPSINC. My main avenue for social media is Instagram. It's BLKOPS Fitness, Black Ops Fitness abbreviated. And you can feel free to DM me. You can find us on Facebook at the same thing. My email is Antonio@BlackOpsInc, all abbreviated, BLKOPSINC.com. And I'm all about helping anyone that is out there that needs help in any aspect. And like I said, I'm not at the top, but, you know, I have a lot of experience and I care about everyone that's going through struggle or anything. And if I could help in any way, I'd love to do it.
Awesome, man. Antonio, thanks again for being on the show, man. You're a stud. Keep up the great work. And
sure, brother. Thank you for having me, Marcus. Sorry about the phone calls.
It's all good, man. Like I said, it's the nature of going live. It's all good.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Thank you. All right, I want to thank all of you motivated gym owners out there for joining us today as well. Again, if you're listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview along with the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Your support means the world to us. And by the way, if you were inspired at all today by what Antonio, his journey has been and what he's gone through and how he's evolved his business, schedule a free strategy session at gymwright.com as well. I'd love to get to know you and chat about where you are and what you're trying to do and see how we can help you. If you want to watch this show live in the future, again, you can join the conversation every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here in the network. Thanks again for your support. Now get out there and build something that matters. We'll see you next week.